Hey guys, Automedic Garage back today. We got a project to do here on this is a 0360. Got a leaky water pump. We're going to install the bulletproof diesel billet water pump. That's the high flow. I think this is a 90 millimeter because it's the early. But we also have the old terrible ruptured oil cooler. So what I like to do is I add blue Kool-Aid to it. Just kidding. This is actually Cascade dish detergent because we have the mud in the degas bottle here. You can sit here and shake this bottle all around. It makes no suds. It doesn't bubble up because it's meant to run in a dishwasher. So get you some hot water and dilute it. I put a pretty good bit in here if I'm trying to cut all the oil out of the system as much as I can before I put the new oil cooler in it. Then I'm going to do this again after the new oil cooler's in because that one's still leaking that's in there. But the goal is to try to get it as clean as you can before you get in there so that you're not going to run the risk of getting anything in your new oil cooler stopping something up in it. So put your Cascade in there with hot water so it really dissolves it up real good. Then you don't have to wait as long for your thermostat to open up on the truck too if you get the water as hot as you can to begin with. This water pump's leaking, so I'm losing water pretty quick while I'm doing this. So I was wanting to try to do that before I pull in the shop, do the water pump, and try to do all this at one time. I'm probably going to run try to put some VC9 in it real quick, but I'm gonna get the motor real good and hot with this first. I'm gonna have the VC9 diluted in a gallon of water, put that in the system, let that do its thing, get it in the garage, start taking it apart, and then I'll pull the drains out and everything and give it a quick flush with some water and then tearing all this. I just hate the idea of running the risk of contaminating a new oil cooler when we put it in, so trying to get it as clean as I can. Anyways, we'll get started on this project here in just a second. As you can see, we're losing a fair amount of coolant pretty quick. So I'm just going to keep adding this warm water to it with some Cascade in it until I feel like the truck is warmed up. Try to run some VC9. I'll put the hose and the degas bottle in, flush all that out once I get, feel like I've got the VC9 out good. Then we'll get in there, we'll do this water pump, we'll do the oil cooler. We'll do one more flush with the VC9 after we put the new oil cooler in and be done with it. All right, guys, we took her on a real quick I guess it's about a 4 mile, real quick spirited drive after I got it warmed up here with this Cascade in it. Let me tell you what, it smells like a fresh load of dishes just came out right here. It's so nice. Smell like you're unloading the dishwasher. Anyways, we're gonna take the cap off now. I'm gonna put the water hose here on hot. I'm gonna let it run through here. I'm gonna open the radiator up, let that flush through, leave the cap off. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna take the this heater hose right here off. And I'm gonna back flush through the heater core while we're doing that too for a minute with that little thing I've rigged up here in the past before to hook that up. And do that, hook it back up. I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the Cascade with the VC9 with some hot water. I can't run it like an hour like I really like to do with the VC9 in it, but we're gonna run it as long as we can. Like I said, goal is just to get this as clean as we can get it, even though that it's ruptured, before we get into it so that we don't have a mess with the new one once it's put in there. So let's get busy doing this other flushing. So the goal right now is we're just going to get all this Cascade out of the system. I don't want to leave any of that in there. I don't know what the VC9 and that might do if they mix together, but I'm just back flushing through the heater core. I got the drain out on the radiator, cap off the reservoir, so we're kind of pushing water out a little bit everywhere. We're going to do this a minute, so I feel like we probably got all that Cascade out. We're going to fill us up a couple of gallons of warm water again with the VC9. I'm gonna top it off with that. It'll keep enough water in the system long enough for me to drive down the street. I'm gonna do that, do this again after the VC9, then we're gonna pull her in here and start tearing stuff apart. All right, so I think what we're gonna tackle first is putting this beautiful bulletproof diesel 90mm high output water pump on here. Used those several times before. Quality product. This will be a little bit easier than most people with the water pump because we have that 7.3 to 6.0 fan adapter on here. So all we got to do is back that off, slide the fan up. We got to undo the pulley for our water pump, take our belt off, and then we'll be able to access all the water pump bolts, put the new water pump in, and then reassemble this minus the belt because I got to pull the alternator off for doing all this fun stuff up here with the oil cooler. Now I have another full video on doing a very detailed flush on one, not one that has a ruptured cooler, but one that has a stopped up cooler. Flushing and replacing the cooler on that, and that includes showing pulling the two block plugs out on each side, the one that's behind the starter and the one that's on the driver's side. We did that today also after we did the VC9, but I just didn't include that on this. I'm trying not to make the videos any longer than I have to. So check that video out if you want a little more detailed thing on it. We're gonna whip this water pump on here real quick and then dive into getting the oil cooler off. Probably a lot of this is gonna be time lapse because like I said, I have a very detailed video on it. We'll show the bulletproof water pump a little more detail because I haven't done that before on a video. And then we'll rock on from there. All right, you got 10mm. This truck also does not have the rear portion of the fan shroud here, which I absolutely despise. Check that out. That's interesting. This is all wrapped up behind the pulley there. Remember him telling me something. That's why this shroud isn't here, because I think he had a belt problem before and it kind of chewed part of this shroud up, and he just decided kind of start cutting it to pieces. I remember when I got it the last time, it was kind of just wobbling all around in here. Oh yeah, there's some play in that shaft. You got your 4 bolts for your water pump at the 10s. It shouldn't be that tight. So the only difference with this job from what it would normally be is this shroud that isn't here, and the 7.3 fan, which really isn't that different either, other than you would unplug your fan clutch on a normal 6-liter and you still spin your nut the same way. I use the air hammer, or if you have the tools for the fan clutch wrenches, you can use that. And all these 4 bolts are the same. There's nothing different about any of them. And there it is. You can see where it was running out of this weep right here. So the pump sits like this. This is your weep hole down here at the bottom. All right, something to note about this. If you read on that tag right there, it says match impeller size before installing, not returnable after you move the tag. Make sure you have the 90 millimeter if that's what you ordered. Because you don't want to be stuck with a water pump that you can't use. All right, I like to take this O-ring and I'll put just a little bit of grease on it. It helps everything to slide in and not get torn or anything like that. And it also helps keep it stuck here on the water pump. If you notice your bolt spacing here, you got two that are far apart, two that are close together. The two that are close together go towards the driver's side, turn clockwise just a little bit. And some of y'all may be saying, well, that's cheating because you ain't got the back shroud on there to deal with. Well, it's really not that terrible removing it. But two, I've seen no difference in these trucks running the shroud versus not running it. You can make your own decision about your truck, but I think it's just fine without them. I'm just gonna snug these up with my ratchet, and then we're gonna torque them. All right, we're torquing 17 or 18 foot-pounds, depending on what manual or who tells you. We're going 18. Put your bell back on. I don't normally torque these. I couldn't tell you what the torque is for them. I just make sure they're tight. And our water pump's on. Now we're gonna have fun with all this right here in this area and get down to that oil cooler. Oh man, you know what? I wasn't even thinking. It's a 03. This has got the crossover for the intake on the back. All right, all took apart, all cleaned out, nice and clean. On my other video doing oil cooler, you can see how I do that and what I do about trying to keep everything clean and how important it is. Always stop up your intakes. I had a buddy that works on diesels also, and he had a 6.0, had a bolt probably fall off the cowl and end up down there. I actually ran fine with him, didn't make any noise. Customer came, crank it up, pick it up, and had a terrible rattling around noise, and there was a bolt down there, ruined the piston. Actually, the head and the cylinder was okay, but ruined the piston. So always cover those up. So we're gonna check this oil cooler out. I'm willing to bet that is not an OEM Ford cooler, because he said he had it done about 2 years ago by somebody else, and it's ruptured already. So we're gonna get all this prepped, get the oil cooler put in there, throw all this back together. We'll put you on time lapse just for fun, and get this thing back together. This is made by that same girl that makes terrible parts all the time. I don't know what her problem is, but China. Made in China. This is a Dorman. This is garbage. Do not put this in your truck, or you'll be doing the same thing. It'll last about the same amount of time, or it'll get stopped up, or doesn't even cool your oil. It's really a heat exchanger, but it doesn't exchange the heat as well as the OEM one. Do not buy this. Don't save your money on that. So he didn't even know what the guy put in. The guy didn't tell him. So obviously cheaped out on repairing his truck for him the last time. Put this Dorman in here. So don't do that. All right, we got our oil cooler all cleaned up. I mean, it's not perfect, but hell, it was covered in grease. Got all our gaskets on, ready to go. And here's the key right here, folks. America, USA. Hit me with that stand, Gary. Yeah. How dare you? But this is what you got to go with, folks. Pay the money for the good one. Don't put that crap in here. Like I said, we're all cleaned up. Got to pull our paper towel out and put our screen in, and we're ready to go together. All right, we're ready to go back on with the intake. We got our new Felpro gaskets on, bolts on the gaskets on there. That's how I like to do it. All we got to do is we got to throw our new little donut in right here at the front of where the intake sets for the coolant. We're gonna throw that donut in and put this intake on. Bolts are loosely in on the intake. This is the torque sequence right here. I printed this off a long time ago. 8 foot-pounds or 96 inch-pounds. You go 1 through 8, and you go 10 through 16, and you come back, do 1 through 8 again, and you go back and do 10 through 16 again, in that order. 2 back here on the back is not fun to get to because of the downpipe there. I usually do that one with a wrench, just kind of feel it by hand on what it should be. All the rest of them you can get to with a small torque wrench, like that one right there. So we're gonna torque these down, rock and roll, get all this together. We got to install a Mishimoto coolant filtration system on here, because I try not to let anything leave here after I've done an oil cooler without having the coolant filtration on it. And if it does, a new coolant filter on it, because anything you can do to keep from risking that oil cooler and keep it from stopping up or whatever, which is usually the problem with a quality one, not with a cheap one. With that cheap one, you got to worry about them rupturing like this one. So put one on there. It's good insurance. It's not that expensive insurance to do. Prime the fuel pump a couple times. You got to build high pressure oil. All right, guys, so I'm super impressed with the Mishimoto. I like how it goes to the heater hose over there. I like these silicone hoses that came with it. That, in my book, is the best coolant filtration to buy. It's the first time I've installed the Mishimoto. And it was, I want to say it was like $30 or $40 more than the full force diesel house brand, which they actually talked me into buying this one instead of their brand this time. So I like it. If you're looking for a coolant filtration, I would pick that one over any of them. It's the best quality. The bracket fits good. I like how you're able to loosen these up and turn this a little bit if you need to for some reason. The ball valves are better. Everything about it is superior to the other ones. We're gonna take this for a spin now and see how she does. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video on showing real quick how to flush the coolant system with a ruptured oil cooler using that Cascade dishwashing detergent. That's the best way to cut that oil in there, and then follow it up with the VC9 after that, just in case you want to get any of the other sediment and stuff out of the block. Pretty easy job. You can do it yourself. I have a more detailed video on actually doing the oil cooler replacement itself. Bulletproof diesel water pump. It's a good thing to go with too if you're looking for an upgraded water pump to replace the problematic factory one. Mishimoto coolant filtration system, really impressed with it. I'm going to probably use that one from now on and not use any of the others. So anyways, Automedic Garage signing out. Y'all like, subscribe, comment, check us out at Facebook, Instagram, and Rumble. Also, check out our other Power Stroke videos. We're finishing up our build on our big shop right now, so we'll be able to bring y'all even more content on all these trucks. We got a lot of projects ourselves. I got a bunch of stuff to do on my personal 7.3 Power Stroke. We got the old project, shop project truck, the F100 that we got. We got to pull the heads off of it and do some work on it. We got full exhaust for it, a bunch of stuff. Probably going to do a cam swap, but we got a bunch of content coming up. So like, subscribe, and we'll holler at y'all later.